So this is first of all the solution, right? Uh, these lines were shown, this line was shown, and this line was shown. So you should know that from this side you will come somewhere, from this side you will come somewhere, you will meet here, and this horizontal line will be there. So this is the complete diagram first, right? That you complete this line, you complete this line, and you complete this line. So this is one thing. Now this is liquid, this is alpha, this is gamma, this is alpha plus gamma. So this is clear, right? For alpha, liquid, gamma, alpha plus gamma. So therefore now in this region, this is alpha and liquid, and this region, this is gamma and liquid. So this is the first thing, that you complete the lines, complete the diagram, and show all the phases. So this was the first part. Then the names. This is a liquidus line, this is a liquidus line, right? This is a solidus line, this is a solidus line, this is a solidus line. This is a solvus line, solid to solid. This is a solvus line, solid to solid, right? So this is the second part, that first complete the diagram and write all the phases. Second, write the names of all of the critical lines. Then this is the eutectic point, right? That the percentages were given 78%. So draw a line, 78%. So when you draw a line, then this cuts here, this cuts here. So here you see this is liquid to solid and then double solid. Here it is liquid to solid, then double solid. Here it is liquid to direct solid. So if you heat it, this is the only point where the two solid phases will suddenly become liquid, right? So this is what was stated, that this is the point where sudden. So this is the eutectic point, liquid to two solids or two solids to liquid, eutectic point. So these are the answers of part A and part B, right? And part C, as I said, right? So it is done. All the three, that complete the diagram, write the names of the phases, write the names of the lines, write the eutectic point, the invariant point. So now last part. Calculate the mass fraction of the material in the alpha phase at 1500 Celsius if the total mass fraction of A is 40%. So the initial alloy is 48% A. Initial alloy is 48% A. Make a vertical line here. And 1500 Celsius, 15, right? This is 1500. So make a horizontal line here. Make a horizontal line here. So your vertical line is here and your horizontal line is here. Horizontal line is here. So your horizontal line cuts this. At some point, draw a line and see what percentage alpha is there. And cut here and see what percentage gamma is there. And then solve it. Use the simple lever rule. So at 1500 Celsius, alpha is roughly 0.08, right? 8% or 0.08. Gamma is 92 roughly, so 0.92 or 92%, and total is already 40%. So this is the data, right? That in the middle you have 40%, on the right you have 92%, on the left you have 8%. So mass fraction of alpha, right? So lever rule, if alpha is on the left, then you go to the right hand side of the line, right? So lever rule, mass fraction of alpha, on the right, mass of gamma minus middle upon mass of gamma minus total. So 0.92 minus 0.4, 0.92 minus 0.08, 61.9%, right? 61.9%. Now because you are reading it yourself, so instead of 8, if you have written 9, if you have written 7, instead of 92, if you have written 91, 92. So I have still taken it as right. And whatever your answer is, this answer is also right if you are doing the right calculation. But if you are totally in some wrong place, then there is nothing else but that you did not revise it. And that's it. We keep on telling you that, you see, to do the higher level course, go back to the basics, and you have done it at least one time, at least two times, at least three times. So this is nothing of a difficult nature for you, right? So this was the solution. Let us now go to quiz 4, right? Let us now go to quiz 4. And I keep on repeating that you can directly listen to my solutions, but you pause after the question is given, solve it again, and once you are 100% sure that your answer is final, then you look at the solution. This way you become better and better. Otherwise, if you just want to look at what were the solutions, then you just completely, go ahead and listen to all my solutions anyhow, right? So this is quiz 4. Question 1A of quiz 4. We are solving question 1A of the last quiz. Explain the relationship between the following two equations for current density. These are the two equations. Explain the relationship. This is also J, right? This is also J. This is also J. So many of you explained it nicely enough, but some of you were not totally correct. So let us just listen to my explanation. The two equations are actually the same in different form. So this is the first thing. This is also J, this is also J. So they are describing the same thing in different forms. First, defines current density as change in total charge upon area multiplied by change in time, isn't it? Delta Q, A delta T. So current density, they are defining current density as this, change in charge per unit area per unit time, right? It is defining this. The second expresses exactly the same information in terms of drift velocity. What is drift velocity? The average velocity of electrons. Drift velocity is the average velocity of electrons, right? So number of electrons in a volume n multiplied by the charge of an electron E provides charge per unit volume. You see, charge per unit volume. Number of electrons multiplied by charge. So it provides charge per unit volume. And when you multiply it by something, right? So this is one thing. Multiplied by a velocity, which is a linear distance, it results in change in charge upon area upon time again. Remember, right, that the first part, number of electrons in a volume multiplied by charge of an electron gives charge per unit volume. And when you multiply it by velocity, distance covered per unit time, then you again get change in charge upon area upon time. So you get the same thing in this and you get the same thing in this, right? So that is why they are equivalent. You see, if you have two very different looking formats for the same quantity J, they must be equivalent. This is the first thing. And here now, scientifically, you have said that yes, they are the same. Question 1B. Compare and contrast piezoelectric materials with ferroelectric materials. Is barium titanate a piezoelectric or a ferroelectric material? Now my problem with you is that, you see, this is an open book exam. So the Newell book is open with you. And any descriptions, anything, you can quickly go and look at there. The problem with you, this was my problem, that when I give you a question and every theory, everything is explained there. So I am allowing you a lot of latitude to get very good marks. The problem with you is only one, that you have not revised it correctly. You think this is, I'm not talking, when I say you, it is not every one of you. Those of you who have scored below the average on a consistent scale, those of you who have scored very little, it is targeted, this U is targeted to them. Those guys who are above average or highly above average and so on are doing pretty well. They can improve further by further practice. But those guys who are below average or well below average, why are you well below average? You have done a material science course. Maybe you have done an engineering materials course also. We keep on reminding you that these chapters are already here. The description in the book is already there. But please quickly revise the earlier material from any material science book like Callister. And then we, give you homework problems that if you were not forced to do it, now do this. So if you are covering the lectures with me in the class and solving problems with me in the class, and you are solving the homework problems also, then there is no way that you can't answer these things. But if you feel mentally that, oh, it is open book, so any theory question, I will just look for the first time in the book. Now you don't have time, right? You know where to find it, but you don't understand it. But if you have understood it well earlier, then yes, open book makes it very easy for you and very tough for me to give you bad marks. Piezoelectric materials convert mechanical energy to electrical energy or vice versa, right? These materials are highly polarized, but the positive and negative charges are symmetrically distributed, right? So this is the complete description. Mechanical energy to electrical or electrical energy to mechanical, this is what they do. Highly polarized but symmetrically distributed charges. Ferroelectric materials have permanent dipoles inside them and polarize spontaneously without the application of an electric field, right? In piezoelectric material, you apply an electric field to make them. Here, they have permanent dipoles inside, so without the application of any electric field, they are polarized, right? So this is the difference between the two. The definition of the two and the difference between the two. With barium titanate, some of you studied it a little more carefully, some of you did not. Barium titanate is piezoelectric before the Curie temperature in its FCC form, but transforms into a perovskite structure above the Curie temperature, and once it transforms into the other, right, from FCC it changes to this, then it becomes, right, ferroelectric. So this is important. Many of you wrote that this is piezoelectric. It is piezoelectric at normal temperatures, right, below Curie temperature, which is normal temperature. So at a normal temperature, it is piezoelectric. But this is that brilliant material that if you heat it above the Curie temperature, it changes from FCC to perovskite, and then it becomes ferroelectric. So this is a remarkable material that it is piezoelectric at one level, it is ferroelectric at the other level. So by changing the temperature, you can control the response of this material, right? So this is a very, very advanced application material therefore.